Handa na ba kayo para dito kay Senador Peter Cayetano? Thank you for accommodating us.
Thank you, and I hope I'm ready for you. You ask the toughest questions.
No, I don't. Come on, I'm very nice. So, it's been a while. Bakit hindi ka masyado nagpapa-interview?
Soul searching, kasi 2022, syempre kadibati ko yung naging Pangulo 6 years before that. Then, malapit ako kay President Duterte, pero hindi naman ako ganun kalapit kay Vice President Sara. So when I won in 2022, searching din ako anong role ko dito, bakit nasa Senate pa rin, baka time to listen more than to speak. Not knowing that I'll find myself as minority leader 3 years later and yet another national scandal but in a scale we've never seen before.
You're so right. Oo, matagal na rin tayo dito. Ngayon talaga lang natin nakikita yung ganito kalaki yung bulusok ng pagsabog ng bulkan.
Well, siguro kasi 'di ba, Lina, yung let's say whether you say BIR or customs or even DPWH, it's massive, pero kanya-kanya and different. Pero yung modus na parang may mastermind and then so many people involved. Tapos ghost pa. Parang nowadays, na may cellphone, may internet, may local media, parang paano nangyari to, di ba?
Right. And it's been happening for so long. Under the noses of the best journalists, hindi ba?
Well, the best politicians.
Yes.
I would dare say the best COA in history given the budget, the money, and yung ni-reveal nila the last 10 years. But and also, apparently, so it's like a COVID-19. It infected too many people.
Too many, and we didn't know where it was coming from. Kasi there was a time to be a contractor was a badge of honor. And all contractors are wealthy. I mean, most of them are. So who is to presume irregularity?
Especially when you say AAA, di ba? So pag sinabi mong AAA, and then usually pag AAA, meron silang private, may government, parang bang hindi mo i-risk yung license mo o yung pagkilala para pumasok sa ganito. And then, nagising na lang tayo isang araw na it's so massive and high government officials. And can you imagine on October 25, 3 months na since President Marcos said this in his SONA, but magti 3 months na, wala pa tayong listahan kung ano yung ghost. Di ba na kung gaano ka-massive yung mga problema? Kasi 3 trillion pesos in 3 years, tapos pag dinamay mo pa yung before 2022, before 2016, ang haba pa nun. But yun na lang 2025 at 2024. Bakit wala pa tayong listahan ng ghost, di ba?
Okay, bakit nga ba?
I don't know.
Because that's also one of my questions. Do you think may mangyayari dito which goes to, bakit ang tagal?
Di ba, in any problem, you start by acknowledging that there's a problem. Di ba? Kung addiction yan, if you don't say you're an addict, then there's no change. As soon as you acknowledge that, the next step is, saan tayo magsa-start? So sa akin kasi, with the amount of money we're talking about, which is definitely tens, maybe hundreds of billions, hindi naman siguro trillion kasi hindi naman yung trillion yung ghost, di ba? And even if you say 300 to 350 billion flood control a year for 3 years, hindi naman lahat yon ghost. So we're talking about hundreds of billions of pesos. So kung ikaw ang mastermind nun, at hindi lang naman siguro isa mastermind, and then maraming nasa first layer, guguluhin mo talaga. Guguluhin mo talaga. So from the smallest corruption to the biggest, gusto mong rambulin yon para nga hindi mapunta sa'yo. And then magturuan na. And of course, there are temptations, di ba? I mean, you'd rather catch a congressman than a district engineer. And you'd rather catch a senator rather than a congressman. Of course, kung makahuli ka ng secretary or higher, why not? But the question is, yun ba yung mastermind, di ba? Or yun ba yung pinapain? And how guilty is that person, no? So corruption is corruption, Corina. I mean, hindi ko inano yun, whether 1 peso or 1 billion. But di ba parang sa hive of bees pag yung queen bee, hindi mo hinanap, manganganak lang yon. Walang tigil yon.
Well, aside from the fact na yan ang pinakamadaling, that's the low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
Na unahin na natin ang mga ghost projects.
Low-hanging, pero yun din ang pinaka-substantial. Why? So just like we saw in Bulacan, di ba? From the ARD na dating DE, the assistant DE, wala na silang choice after 1 or 2 hearings kung hindi kumanta. Kasi hindi lang ma-explain yung ghost Paano mo nabayaran na tapos na. And hindi mo kayang ikaw lang yon, di ba? So, if they're saying in the rest of the country, then they're going around, meron to. Imagine if in a few days, in a month, in 2 weeks, they can come up with eto ghost. So if you say it's 4 provinces in the country, and then that province you can isolate at makita natin, is the mastermind in that province the same as the mastermind in Bulacan? Then makikita na natin kasi in any crime, kailangan mo ng working theory. Kung hindi, a step ahead sa'yo yung mastermind dahil they just keep pointing you in the wrong direction. And in the Philippines, dahil may election cycles tayo, pagdating ng late next year, 2026, ano na to yung nandun pa rin galit ng tao, pero nandun na sa solve it by electoral solutions, meaning having a new president, rather than solve it by the science of criminology or forensic.
I think it is in the interest of this administration to come out with results right away.
Yes.
Hindi ba? So
especially for the president.
Especially for the president,
If the president is truly, has nothing to do with it, and yung sinabi niyang statement the other day na tamaan na yung bawat tamaan, interest niya that not only during this administration, but the more defined, di ba, at yung ebidensya lumabas earlier, better.
So before we go there, do you think then that the COA might be in cahoots?
Sa lower, definitely
Sa lower.
naman. I mean, kasi paano naman, kahit sabihin mong paper, tama yung sinabi ni Senator Sherwin, di ba, na kahit papel lang yung tinignan mo, kung makikita mo na 20 days, 15 days, 30 days, tapos na, di ba?
So what is your theory? Bakit ang bagal? Remember also, hindi ba katakataka, Senator, na may 15 sa listahan na si mismong PBBM ang naglabas. Bakit isa, dalawa, tatlo lang ang parang napupuruhan? Kumusta naman yung number 1? Kumusta naman yung number 2?
I'll start with the first. Whoever is the mastermind or yung grupo na yun are so powerful and have so much money that they started investing na guluhin to even before sila mahuli. Diba? And part of guluhin to, isama lahat ng pwedeng isama, operan din at bigyan din. So that's why everyone's scared kasi picture lang, parang guilty ka na. Diba? Yung na-interview mo lang, baka sabihin kasama
exactly.
ka pa, di ba? And we're getting that as a dose of our own medicine dito sa
So you think all of that is a part of an orchestration?
Ginagamit na lang later on, but it's part of our culture kasi, di ba, na we all love everyone and then suddenly, siya ang masungit, then barkada mo rin yon. So may nagagamit yung culture natin. But the second point, I think, is that it's just so massive. And when I say massive, one, it's systemic in the DPWH until the level. But then, kumbaga, kung tinotolerate dati na marami dyan, ayos yung kontrata, etc., yung how did it get, di ba parang kay Napoles She wasn't the first nor the last na nangungumisyon sa kontrata. But she was probably the first to offer 30, then 40, then naging ghost na, di ba? So, pag dinamay-damay mo na sa DPWH, di ba, yung may pinakiusap na contractor, may hiniram na lisensya, may 5%, then naging ghost. So, it's just so massive na pag sinabay-sabay mo, di ba, how do you uproot all of that na nandun yung magagandang plants, di ba? Sabi nga sa Bible, you can't just uproot a weed kung tumutubo na kasi pati yung good plants ma-uproot mo, di ba?
Pero may solution. Sabi mo nga, and I agree, just start with number 1. The number 1 ghost project, the number 2 ghost project.
Yun nga ang amazement ko na ba? So even the ICI, di ba? Kung ako, I would have either passed a law, made it stronger, I would have made sure it's public, and I would have made sure 2 or 3 religious leaders are there. So it's not that wala silang politika, but business and business and government are really yan ang magka-partner. So religious yan, alam naman natin sa Pilipinas may kanya-kanya rin gusto, but more or less may mga foundations yan, and we have like 3 or 4 big groups from Catholic to Iglesia to Muslim to born again and others that can be there. So there are things that could have been done, but that's why nga naisip ko, Corina, baka sakaling everyone is in a sacrificial mode, baka gusto natin resign na lang all from the president to congressman. Doon lang ako natawa doon sa mga reaction. I expected reactions from the left to right, from wow, ang ganda to sama ng propose. But I didn't expect yung what? Resign kayo para hindi kayo makasuhan? What? Pakakawalan na lang para hindi kayo... Sandali lang, baliktad. Pag nag-resign ka, wala ka na sa poder. Mas madali ka ng kasuhan.
Right.
But that's for me an example of the fake news and yung pag sinabi ng isang legal luminary, sinusunod na ng iba without thinking or without saying na sandali lang, yung legal luminary na yun or yung political consultant na yun, partisan pala. Di ba?
Para sa akin, well, ang tama sa akin nun is, maganda. Maganda. If I could flick my finger and undo everything, yung feasibility lang, Yung feasibility lang. Do we have enough time? Do you have the budget? Who's gonna run? What will happen to the term?
We don't have a choice because it's in the Constitution. Doon din ako nagtaka sa ibang legal luminary na sabi na unconstitutional. Hindi, sa Constitution, when the President and Vice President resign, the Congress has to meet right away. And then they're given 7 days to pass a law. Then they have to call an election not earlier than 45 days, not later than 60 days. Pwede na nila isama sa law na yan, na hindi lang president at vice, senator na lang at congressman. Kaya ko naisip yung Corina kasi I think this will drag beyond 2028. Because nga, as of now, walang kandidato ang Marcoses. But the Pinks think that, I'll use the names DDS, Pitlawan, etc. without any offense to the
Right. Ganun naman talaga yung totoong salita ng tao.
I mean, if this was the US, I'll say Democrats, Republicans, but since sa atin very loose yung coalition. So the Marcos supporters, so far walang kandidato. But they did try for to change the Constitution, di ba, yung People's Initiative. Okay. The Pinks think that nakabalik sila, it's our turn. If you take out Sara, kami na yan. Okay. Of course, the DDS group is kinuha nyo na nga si Duterte, dinala nyo na doon, kakasuhan nyo pa Sara, pambato namin si Sara. So if Sara wins in 2028, what will you think will be the reaction of the Marcos and Pink group? Okay, kung manalo naman yung Pink, tingin mo, titigil din basta-basta, etc. Ganyan. So I was just thinking, kung bawal tumakbo most of the people now, at least in one election cycle, di ba? And then you have a new batch, I'm not saying it will 100% work. Pero malay mo. And if it doesn't, then when you come back after one cycle, hindi ikaw yung problema.
Right. I think it's brave of you to have mentioned that. Well, you are identified with Duterte, right?
So for you, I ran as an independent last time, but among the groups, I'm identified more with them.
Because of the minority bloc. And so thereby, it was brave of you to say that because that discounts, that really derails also the movement for
Totoo
Sara.
din naman na malabong mangyari yan. But it will take everyone eh. So sabi nga ng Malacanang through their spokesperson, si Ate Claire, no, sabi niya, mauna ka. Sasagutin ko siya ngayon. Mauna ako, basta't lahat kami. Iba yung ikaw lang, iba yung mauna ka. Di ba? So if Corina says na, lahat tayong journalist, bawal tayo mag-endorse ng kahit anong produkto. If they say, mauna ka, Corina, or if they say everyone does it, sige. Di ba? But not all networks pay their journalists the same.
Right.
So iba yung, but ito, halos pareho kami ng sitwasyon. Siyempre, kawawa lang yung neophytes ng Congress at ng Senate ngayon kasi parang wala pa kaming alam dyan, bawal na kami. No? But my point is, in this present universe natin ngayon, we have a problem. We do need national transformation, pero parang walang root going there.
Right.
I mean, if you're here long enough, para bang paulit-ulit paggrabe lang ng paggrabe, di ba? I mean, whether you talk about scandals ng first President Marcos, President Tory, President FBR, I mean, the presidents handle it differently, but every administration have their own scandals. Eh. So parang vicious cycle ng palaki lang. So that's what I was thinking na, if we just continue this to 2028, baka mag-people power, baka mag-kudita, baka may election, pero right after, ganun na naman. So parang, so I was thinking kung multiverse to, what if in another multiverse, who's ang nagbigay? The president says, I have 3 more years, but for the country, sige. Vice President Duterte says, sure win ako susunod, pero sige, pagbigyan ko.
And in another multiverse, we just turn back time and start from the beginning, knowing what we know now.
Yeah.
Di ba?
Well, with all the technology now, even ako, gumigising pa rin ako na paano nangyari lahat to. Paano nangyari?
Kaya nga multiverse eh.
Yeah.
Pupunta tayo dun sa part na babantayan na natin ngayon lahat ng mga flood control projects.
Yeah. But ang problema, Prina, hindi lang flood control ang problema eh.
Marami
because
pa.
of BIR. You have
Right.
friends, I have friends,
Yes.
diba? Okay.
Customs.
I wasn't gonna say customs, but then, nung kinonfiscate yung mga sasakyan ni Diskaya, ang sabi ng mga Diskaya, we got it from dealers. Ang sabi naman ng custom, hindi bayad ang tax. I haven't heard na iniimbestigahan yung dealers. So obviously, hindi lang smugglers, meron ng sistema doon, di ba? And then, banks. I'm still going back and forth kung ano stand ko doon, pero sa isang banda, pera mo yun, so dapat ma-withdraw mo yun. Sa isang banda naman, oo nga naman, pag nag-withdraw ka ng 400 million a day, hindi ba
Di ba 500,000 lang maamla ka na?
No, ma-flag.
Yes, ma-flag.
But if it's a usual transaction, meaning may business ka, so if I have a restaurant na it makes 1 million a day or 600,000, ma-flag lang pero okay lang yon. So like in this case kasi kontratista sila eh. So that's their so it's flagged but it's not stopped because it's not a suspicious in the sense that it's explainable, di ba? Pero sabi nga nung iba ngayon, but if 30% lang ng kontrata is supplies and usually supplies check ba't ganyan, di ba? But tingin ko baliktad naman, nag-overboard naman sa 500,000 lang a day. Kawawa na ngayon ng maraming mga negosyante na they need more cash a day. So what will they do? Baka hindi nila i-deposit ngayon.
The change of leadership and Blue Ribbon Committee. Okay. Why do you think Ping Lacson resigned?
I think many factors, di ba? Yung like us, we've been around so may pananaw at way siya of how to run it. Pero he got back to the Senate. It wasn't that long ago kasi he was in the Senate during Duterte's time, but 3 years siyang wala. Umiba talaga Umiba din. Not only because of the senators, because of social media. So ngayon, dati, siguro 60-70% ng gawin mo, ikaw chairman. May iba pa ang chairman, parang 90%. Parang ako chairman Pero ngayon hindi.
You don't believe that there's pressure for him to...
That's one factor, di ba? Na it's more difficult. Okay. Pangalawa, tama yung sinabi ni Senate President Soto. Sala sa lamig, sala sa mainit. Meron gustong stop. Pag sinap, gusto ituloy. Pag tuloy, meron gustong, Third, from the senators. Kasi nga, yung direction, so like kami sa minority, may angal kami sa... Definition lang bakit pag minority senator ang naglagay ng pondo sa budget, bakit insertion? Pero pag sa majority, amendment. Di ba? Yung may mga ganun na bakit pag may nabanggit, and hindi namin pinagtatakpan full investigation tayo, pero pag may binanggit sa credible yung witness, pag sa majority, ganon. And to be fair, that's not all on Senator Lacson, di ba? And then outside, there are things outside we don't know.
Right.
How does Malacanang feel? How does this group feel?
I think yung we don't know ang dahilan. Kasi hindi naman maramdamin si Senator Lacson kung yun lang
Well, all these rumors of the coup, pero sa kanila nanggagaling yun, hindi sa amin Kasi if yung 5 na nagsabing mag-independent na lang kami, if they wanted to go with us, then majority na kami.
Right.
But by announcing na, I mean, you've covered the Senate long enough, di ba? Pag yung 5, sinabi mag-independent, ang ibig lang sabihin nun sa majority, ligawan nyo kami. Kasi if they wanted to join us sa minority, hindi na mag-announce yan.
Panliligaw ba ang hinahanap nitong 5 ito? And by this 5, we're talking about JV, the 2 Villars, tama? And the 2, sino ba yung dalawa?
Nabanggit ni
5 of
JV si
them.
Win and then I don't know the other. I don't really know.
Right.
Well, 2 factors. 1, malaki ang minority ngayon, 9. So we only need 3. Number 2, napaka-toxic yung issues. But doon sa issues, Corina, it's not always homogeneous Ang tingin ng iba, hindi, DDS yung siyam na yan. Si Senator Marcoleta was adopted by Vice President Sara's group, but he's an independent. I ran as an independent in the last election 2022. But obviously, I'm close to them. Si Cheese is more Marcos independent rather than Duterte independent. Si Joel ran with the yellow pa, hindi pa pink. Di ba? He ran with Mar and Lenny noon. But then, he's sort of independent then. Di ba? So, I'm not sure about Senator Jinggoy. So, mixed din kami. Kaya lang, there are more issues na magkasama kami kasi nga, mas maingay ngayon yung Marcos and Pink versus Duterte. But to be fair to the senators, it's much, much more than that. Mas maraming kulay at mas maraming
May ganun
issues.
ba Marcos versus Pink? Merong ganyan.
Marcos and Pink. Sumusuporta yung Pink kasi pagka umabot sa Marcos or nag-resign, si Sara na.
Oo.
Kaya kita mo, kaya nagkakagulo nung September 21 kasi hindi na malaman kung sinong pagre-resignin. Hindi ka naman pwede mag-people power na vice president lang ang para-resign mo kasi kaya ka nga nag-people power, may pina-resign ka, may papalit.
I think the first rally was kind. I mean, meaning, gusto nilang magkaroon ng pagbabago at bigyan ng pagkakataon ng
So
administrasyon
I think
ito.
the people who went are organically mad and they want change, they want transformation. The problem is the leaders. The leaders all want something else. Diba? The Duterte leaders want nakapwesto na si Sara. The Marcos leaders wants na everyone na mali dito, the Pink want kami na. So, naghahalo-halo.
So you don't believe that Senator Lacson left because he's pressured not to include certain personalities in the investigation?
Never naman nagka-pressure na na wag mag-include. We just want the sanity na number one, sinong mastermind, number two, anong direction, number three, is that if they mention, may some sense of proof sila.
Correct.
Diba?
Hindi lang yung basta magbabanggit ng pangalan.
Yung magbabanggit lang. So, nagkagulo ng majority nung sinabing may mababanggit sa kanila. O, diba? So, yun lang sabi namin na bakit pag may nababanggit sa minority, okay lang na ituloy. So, it just so happened, nakita na nila point namin nung sila. Diba? And then, ganun din, diba? Nung nasabing may insertion si Senator Risa, nagkagulo na lahat. And then ngayon, may debate, what is insertion, what is amendment.
Correct.
O, diba?
But inherently, hindi naman masama ang amendment and
Hindi,
insertion.
hindi.
Depende kung saan balak gamitin, hindi ba?
No, well, in general, una-una trabaho natin mag-amend. And kung wala kang amendment, kukurapin lahat ng executive yun. Kasi kung ano ilagay nila, hindi mo na gagalawin yung budget. Si Senator Ping kasi earlier on his career, may natuklasan siya na nilagyan niya ang pondo, parang nagka-problema. So sabi niya, from now on, I won't get any more infrastructure. I won't put, di ba, whether Porpion, PDAF, or insertion, di ba? So of course, from his branding, is that it's the, di ba, some people say money is the root of all evil. Hindi yun ang nakalagay sa Bible. Nakalagay sa Bible, the root of all evil is the love of money. So for Senator Ping, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, pero parang ang branding niya, insertion is the root of evil. Sa akin kasi, it's the corruption of anything you insert. But if you don't corrupt what you insert, di ba? So for example, if you're from Tarlac, they want to put flood control at hindi na, wala naman flood, and you want to put a hospital, masama ba yun? Di ba? It just so happened kasi people sometimes move from hospitals, school buildings to flood control kasi mas malaki kita sa flood control kaso dun sa buildings, di ba? So, but my point is, it's so toxic, at least in social media, we can't have an intelligent discussion. Kasi nga, ang nangyayari, kung sinong kakampi mo, parang black and white, kakampi mo na. O, kahit mali na. Or yung definition is depending sa kakampi mo.
Halos lahat ng mga senador kasama, yung halos lahat ng senador sa 19th Congress,
Sa
ay may budget insertions,
No,
hindi
sa
ba?
pagkaalam ko, basta wala lang si Senator Ping.
Oo.
Si Senator Ping, sa pagkaalam ko meron din siyang amendment, hindi lang infrastructure projects. But he wasn't here the last 3 years.
Right.
But except for Senator Ping, I haven't heard of a senator na hindi nagpro-propose ng school, ng sports center, ng hospital or whatever. It's the system. So nung meron pang PDAF, may limit ka, tapos you submit it. So unintentional consequence nung nawala yon, iba-iba na yung amounts na sinasubmit. Tapos yung small committee na kung tawagin, small BICAM committee, got more powerful over time until nga nawala yung transparency, until na mukhang one way or the other, hindi naman sila lahat, pero nandun nanggagaling yung paanong gawin yung corruption scheme na ito.
So, hindi pa nakakarating sa inyo yung chismis. Marites lang po ito. We have no, I don't know what the basis is. Yung nagbabanggit ng mga pangalan, tapos pinapa-stop. Kasi may lalabas ng pangalan na kakampi ng administrasyon.
No, open yun sa senators, na may isang senador na sinabi niya, alert, babanggitin ni ganito. Tapos may isang powerful na senador na sumagot na kausapin natin si Boying at saka hindi credible yung magsasalitang yon, which was si Bryce. So syempre, hindi na kami nag-comment, kaming minority, pero sandali lang. Nung binanggit niya mga minority, hindi siya credible siya. Nung babanggitin niya na sa majority, hindi na siya credible. But to be fair to that guy naman, hindi naman binanggit nung nandun na. But yun nga ang point, no one knows what's happening in closed doors. Because hindi rin klaro anong role ng ICI, anong role ng DOJ, anong role ng Ombudsman, and then bakit nag-uusap ang chairman ng Blue Ribbon at saka ang DOJ when it comes to the witnesses. So I'm not saying it's bad per se, but in this kind of atmosphere na may opposition administration at magulo, let me put it another way, Torina, di ba? If you are a congressman now, na incumbent, at may ghost sa lugar mo, lahat ng kalaban mong mayor, kalaban mo, wants to highlight that. Ikaw, you wanna downplay it, di ba? So, ang politika ngayon is as rampant as the cover-up. Kasi to be fair, to places na may free bidding, kung totoo na yung Discayas at 200 billion yung project, and kung totoong magaling sila pumasok sa bidding, di ba? And you name the credible names now, whether you name Vico, whether you name si Mayor Magalong, even in Taguig, may project ang Discayas eh. So does that mean that automatically, so like sa amin, walang ghost? Kahit silipin nyo, we've been searching.
I was going to ask you that. Are you very, very confident that hindi ka tatamaan?
Yes. Because we don't deal with contractors, wala kaming hiningi doon. Every 3 years, well, aside from yung 0%, 50%, 100%, sorry. So, the 0, 50, 100%, let me explain. Sometimes I think that everyone's watching us all the time. Sometime when I was a new senator, someone told me, ang pangit ng pagkagawa ng isang covered court na pinagawa ko somewhere in Central Luzon. So after that, pinakukunan ko na ng picture na 0%, 50%, and 100% para sure man lang. So I don't check periodically, but throughout my career, yun ang sinasabi ko sa Taguig. Para pare-pareho tayo, walang turuan, walang sabit. After the bidding, take a picture na 0%, 25, 50, 100%.
Do you think that local government officials should, by law, should be in on that? Or is that another layer of corruption? For accountability?
Everyone should have double, triple systems. Kasi, like, di ba sinasabi nga ni Secretary Vince na bakit tinanggal yung acceptance? Ang alam ko, hindi tinanggal yung acceptance. Yung, dati kasi, kahit hindi ito turn over sa LGU, pinapapirmahan. And then, the background is, nagagalit yung DPWH kasi minsan daw may humingi. Whether kapitan yan, or mayor, or whoever. Okay. But for example, you do a project, and it's for the municipality or city, they still have to accept it.
And that signature means something.
Well, it should mean something.
Yes, it
kasi
should.
But yun nga problema. So for example, no, if it's not a project for the city, so let's say, tapos papirmahin mo. It doesn't matter sa city pagka na-delay yung pirma o hindi. Kasi DPWH ang magsasuffer. But let's say it's a school na gagamitin ng city. Pag hindi nila pinirmahan right away, hindi pa magagamit ng estudyante. But yun naman ang problema. Kung hindi 100% ang magandang pagkagawa, minsan may dilema yung mayor. Pipirmahan ko ba ito? Pag hindi, madidelay yung paggamit. Ako pa may pag pinirmahan ko naman.
So should they?
Yeah, we should fix those systems talaga.
I think that should be in law, no? Kasi ngayon, I find it bizarre na hindi alam ng governor or mayor na may malaking-malaking hukay doon ng 8 taon, hindi pa nagagawa. So, meaning, they should also be an oversight.
No. It's in the local government code that hindi pwedeng gumawa ng ang national na walang consultation. So, it just so happened na not all congressmen ay kasundo ng mayor. Kasi pag magkasundo yon, pipilitin nung, so like ako, dito Senador, now and then, nahuhuli ko DPWH na may magagandang project, in theory, pero it will either cause traffic or pangit na projects. Tinatanong ko, did you consult the LGU? Minsan lolokohin pa ako, yes, na hindi alam na asawa ko mayor. Tapos titignan namin, it's one letter, and it's not even a consultation saying there's a major highway dadaan sa inyo. So to your question, should they know, should they? Yes. But hindi one-sided yung usapan at yung corruption. There has to be a real dialogue between the ULAP, the League of Cities, the DPWH, and everything, para hindi magturuan.
Kasi ngayon hugas kamay lahat ng LGU, no?
But the issue kasi hindi sa kanila talaga yan.
Yes.
Issue national di ba? But having said that, for example, sa flooding, di ba? Ang building permits ay sa LGU, di ba? And reality is, there are many places around the country, and this is not the present mayors, this is the last 25, 30 years, kung saan nag-build na hindi dapat mag-build. Di ba? So hindi DPWH yun.
Right.
Zoning. Diba?
That's another investigation.
But I'm saying nga, it's not hitting the nail on the head na yung problema ng corruption ngayon. But the problem of flooding is a whole of nation, is all communities have to pitch in. It's not only DPWH. Before the flood control scandal in Bulacan, binabaha na ang Bulacan. I'll give you another example. Reclamations. Nothing against them. I'm not anti-reclamation. Pero wag niyo naman sabihin all those reclamations in Manila Bay and the others are not contributing to the flood. Diba? It is, diba? Pero syempre, it's easier to quiet, doon na lang kayo. Yung online gaming, diba? That's contributing to our erosion of our values. Pero no one's discussing it now kasi ang pinag-uusapan ngayon yung flood control.
Correct. Ang daming problema, no? Okay, sino ang dapat pumalit kay Ping Lacson? Head of Blue Ribbon Committee.
Well, sa akin, it's not more of sino, but then talagang magkaroon ng consensus how we can play our role, minimize yung conflict of interest ng senators. But then, kasi ang role ng Senate for me, it's not kung sino i-convict, but yung openness ng hearing. And actually, benefit pa nga na magkakalaban yung mga senador para lumabas lahat. Ang problema, yung equal say ng direction ng committee. That's why I was saying nga, if we have a list kung saan yung 4 na probinsya, panay massive ang ghost dito. Mag-usap-usap mga senador. Sige, these are the 4 provinces. We're finished with Bulacan or we feel one more hearing. Or we'll have 2 hearings on province B, 2 on province C, province. So pwedeng mag-usap-usap eh. No?
Paano naman yung interparliamentary courtesy? Sabi, ipapatawag daw si Speaker Romualdez ng Senado. Gagawin ba ninyo yun? At pwede rin magpatawag ang Congress ng Senador? That's
one problem nga na hindi naman nagko-caucus at nag-uusap doon. It's a decision of Senator Lacson. So nung una, sabi niya, walang papatawag, even Zaldi. Yun ang sinasabi ni Senator Marcoleta, bakit kami napatawag? Kaya nag-uusap ng minority, sabi nga ng isang senador, bakit kapag kayong sa witness protection, pwedeng i-bend yung law? Law na yun. Pero bakit pagka interparliamentary, hindi pwede? Having said that, we're only talking about an invitation. The reality is we won't subpoena them because by interparliamentary. But Corina, I was speaker, and may question sila sa SEA Games, I voluntarily came to the Senate. Without Senate. Sinagot ko yung mga tanong. I didn't think it was, sabi kasi nung iba, parang I forgot the right word, parang bang mada-downgrade, parang mapapaya yung position mo. So ikaw baliktad, kung chinichismis yung minamarites yung position mo na may corruption, may ganito, bumababa yung position you hold. But you go there, sabi ko, samahan niyo ako mga congressmen, tapos be treated as
Does it happen in the US? That they call on each other?
Sa US kasi pag medyo maganda na ebidensya, resign na eh. Tapos yung mismong caucus mo, meaning yung kapartido mo, ang magpe-pressure sa'yo mag-resign.
So, hindi na umaabot doon. So, palagay mo, Senator, aabot sa ganyan? Yung magtatawagan kayo?
Well, umaabot na sa may mga ni-name, di ba? But ang problema nga, katulad nung kay Bryce, pabago-bago din siya. Kasi, sabi ko nga, masosolve yun eh. Masosolve yun pag nakita mo na kung sino yung mastermind at pagka lahat ng ghost na ipila na. Di ba? So, actually, if we stop there, walang problema. But yun nga, the lawyer of Bryce was saying, meron pa kasing name. Pero sabi ni Bryce, hindi totoo. My problem with that is not really the senators. It's the trust. Trust in Malacanang, trust in DPWH, trust in Congress, trust in the Senate. Wala nang trust eh. So how can you govern pag walang trust?
So it will always be suspect because of conflicts?
Well, more now.
Yes,
diba? Kasi
more now than ever.
For example, sa Napoles, that wasn't everyone. And kay Napoles, yung PDAF mo, sinubmit mo eh. So you can follow it. So if it's Alan A, Alan B, Alan C, Alan D, o Alan A, 80 million, o may nilagay ka ba sa soft, o pag meron, nilagay mo ba kay Napoles, madaling sundan. Eh ngayon, you have a 6 trillion peso budget, and ang insertion, if you call it insertion, amendment, if you call it amendment, in the budget is almost 1 trillion pesos.
I'll do a fast talk. So, what do you think about the transparency of the investigations of the ICI? Should it be public or private?
It should be public, but we should sit down how to strengthen the ICI. And I think religious leaders should be included, and I think there should be a law para tunay na independent sila. They're called independent now, but they're still a Malacanang creation as of now.
Trial by publicity? No.
It shouldn't be as, what I meant by naman na public, kasi for example, Corina, everyone invited there now, are they being asked the right questions? Remember,
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. So between full transparency, meaning naka-live, and somewhere in between, or should we allow like sa courts, di ba? Hindi naka-live stream, pero nandun yung mga media. So you can draw, you can note down, di ba? But yung hindi natin alam kung anong tinatanong, kung anong direction, anong et cetera, di ba? So ako wala akong doubt sa ICI now, but very clear sa akin, it can be strengthened.
Right. But it is a legal entity, right?
It is a legal entity.
It's a legal entity.
But so far, it's independent because of its name.
Oo. Pero hindi talaga natin alam.
Theoretically, kung gusto silang isara ng presidente, pwede. Dahil hindi independent yun.
Ayun.
Nung inintriga si Mayor Magalong, umalis siya, nag-appoint ng bago. Dahil hindi independent yun.
So there should be an accompanying law to strengthen ICI, independent of the incumbent.
Yes.
Tama naman din. Feeling ko, tama naman yun. Okay.
Independent, diba? Kasi kahit anong yugyug mo,
Oo.
that's why sa US, they have the independent investigator, or the independent, diba, in the law. Pati funding nun, sigurado. Tapos, walang, from the president to Congress, walang pwede mag-stop sa kanya. So, eto, nakita mo, spokesperson lang ng Malacanang, konting intriga.
Oo.
Apektado na, di ba?
Medyo.
Theoretically, if independent sila, dapat hindi nagko-comment ang Malacanang about ICI.
Hindi, may mga vlog nga ang spokesperson. Oo. Ibang-iba siya doon. Ibang-iba siya pag nasa likod ng podium.
Pagka may blinag ka, sumunod sila. Hindi sabihin ng tao hindi independent. May blinag ka, hindi sila sumunod, tinitira yung ICI. See, remember the senior President Marcos, it was martial law. So, katulad nung napatay si Ninoy Aquino, no one believed that that's why they said independent. So, they got someone with high credibility, then they gave them a venue to investigate, di ba? So, that's what independent means. You get the people of the best. So, for example lang, ako, believer ako kay Babe Singson. I do believe he had a lot of reforms na maganda. Pero ang testimony ng mga taga-DPWH, Anli ngayon, meaning hanggang 100% ghost pwede, Kay Duterte, it was 15 to 25%. Pero kay Pinoy, may 10%. Siya ang secretary nung, nun. So that's what I'm saying
Right.
na
Like, how far
it's
back
more-
are we going to investigate?
Yes, and how independent is independent. But I do believe he should be there. I do believe in the
but
integrity
that's also
ni
true.
Babes. But yun kasi, so that's why, kung imbis na 3, 7 sila, at yung 3, 4 doon ay religious leaders or whoever na we all believe are independent.
And was
diba?
never in government.
And they don't have to be magkakampi. Mas gusto ko pang 3 o 7 sila sa council na hindi magkakampi para they guard each other.
What about Boying Remulla? The appointment of the ombudsman is almost always political. It's a political appointment. Kahit na legal ang kanyang no? So what do you think about Boying Remulla?
So Boying is good wherever you put him. Diba? He's decisive, he's intelligent, he knows what he's doing. I've seen him work nung kay President Erap noon. Hindi ko na siya inabot nung chief of staff siya dito. Inabot ko na siya nung doon, and then he played a big role when I was speaker with the majority. Having said that, the question is independence. And siya lang makakasagot nun. So meaning, once he's there na, di ba parang sinabing inappoint ako ni Duterte na Chief Justice or Ombudsman or COA. On one hand, I owe him my appointment, so medyo papaboran ko ba yung mga siya at hindi. On the other hand, kaya nga 7 years ka, tapos impeachable officer, meaning hindi ka basta pwedeng tanggap. So it really depends on his conscience now. If he says na, eto na ang last card ko, eto na huling hirit ko, legacy na to ng pangalan namin, justice is blind, I'll go against anyone. He's capable of putting things in order. He's capable of eto muna. Diba? Sa DOJ, I don't know if he just didn't do it or it's more of may ibang sistema, etc. Kasi kung sa DOJ sana talaga, it's 3 months na since the President said it. Bakit hanggang ngayon wala tayong listahan na kung ano yung ghost, diba?
What about Sara Duterte having to go through the ombudsman?
I think she's prepared for anything kasi impeachment nga, bawal ka na rin na tumakbo. So, in our country, basta't ikaw ay tinignan na presidentiable, whether you are or you're not. Ako nga every time mababanggit lang na may new Senate President, yung mga ibang vloggers may expose about me. Even if we're not actively campaigning for Senate President, even if hindi ko inambisyon yon. So, we just have to be ready for it, di ba?
What would be the tipping point to a revolutionary government taking over?
I'm more focused now on a turning point than tipping point. But yes, that's why I propose the resign all. I think a people power or a communist or fascist takeover, fascist meaning more right and more junta than hindi. Mostly sa Pilipinas naman pag may junta pinapasa, but there are some countries na pag may junta, di ba, hindi na nila binibigay sa so yung more fascist. So the fascist and communist threat can be there. Yung people power, it also causes us frustration, di ba? So after people power in 1986 na decentralized pa yung corruption. So there's so much hope at so much then. So I'd keep bringing it back to we need a revival rather than a revolution. But if we don't provide a venue for that, so let me put it this way. I don't think the problem is only political. I think the problem is also spiritual. Not religious, but spiritual. Meaning, do we really hate cheating, lying, and stealing? Or do we only hate it pag DPWH? Pero pag taxes ba, okay lang. Pag exam or plagiarism, okay din lang ba? Di ba? Pagka mauna ako sa pila ng iba, okay lang. If I cheat for my wife, wala man public funds yun, okay lang ba? So, I think,
we hate it pag nabuko.
or pag tayo. Pero pag ibang tao,
Pag tayo yung dehado, we
okay
hate
lang,
it.
di ba? Oo. So, I think yung kanina, multiverse, di ba? There has to be an acceptable universe of getting, na ikulong tong mga to, but to fix our system. Systemic yung corruption sa atin. It's part of the culture na talaga.
Okay, my last question. Fearless forecast. May mga makukulong ba?
Short term meron. Remember, last week or 2 weeks lang ago, lumabas yung anti-money laundering ni Napoles. So that's what? More than 10 years. So 10 years from now, assuming lang ha, X number of congressmen, X number of senators, etc. No? So ang doubtful pa ngayon at kailangang bigyan ng linaw, mahuli yung mastermind. Maniwala kapag nahuli yung mastermind at yan nakasuhan, yung nasa ilalim yan will fall.
Sino yung mastermind?
Abangan. Part 2 tayo.
Kala ko, tuloy-tuloy ka na Kala ko ilalabas mo na
Ikaw parati kang may K. Hindi ako parating may K.
Nagpepreno siya. You're not ready to say the name?
No, we're all sure na hanggang kay Zaldi, how bigger and how dyan. And ba't ako nilalagyan ko ng ESA? Tingin ko to masterminds.
Masterminds.
And I think this was an evolving scheme and scam. It didn't start with i-ghost natin.
Okay.
The greed got there.
Okay.
But it's a national scam. It's not yung the usual sa DPWH, may kita doon, gano'n. It was how to consolidate it yun ang working theory ko.
Okay.
So, sa susunod,
Tuloy-tuloy na sana.
we're working on
sa
it.
dulo.
We're working on it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Congratulations.
Kami ang boses ng masa, hindi natatakot. Katotohanan lang, di kami nalulunod. Walang bahid ng sismis, lahat ay totoo. Kahit sino ka pa, pag mali ka babanatan ka. Walang pinipili kulay, wala kaming kinikilingan. Basta para sa bayan, kami lalaban. Pag tama, palakpakan. Pag mali, banatan. Di matitinag, di matatakot. Para sa bayan, tuloy ang sigaw. Sa harap ng kamera, walang halong takot. Mga baluktot, lahat kayo'y tutumba. Ang hustisya at totoo, yun lang ang mahalaga. Kahit sinong harang, di kami matitinag. Walang pinipiling kulay, wala kaming kinikilingan. Basta para sa bayan, kami lalaban. Pag tama, palakpakan. Pag mali, banatan. Di matitinag, di matatakot. Para sa bayan, tuloy ang sigaw. Kung nasa tama ka, ikaw ay aming kasama. Pero pag mali ka, handa ka na bang mabasag? Banateros kami, walang inuunan. Dahil bayan muna, bago ang sarili. Bago ang sarili. Pag tama, palakpakan. Pag mali, banatan. Banateros ang sigaw. Katotohanan ang sa harap ng kamera.